Hello everyone and welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul and today I'm going to be doing an unboxing and overview of this new motherboard from Gigabyte's G1 Killer series. This is the G1.Sniper 5. It's based on the Z87 chipset and it features the 1150 socket for Intel's 4th generation core processors. Let's start off with a quick look at the retail box. As you can see, this board features a black, green, and silver color scheme. It also features an upgraded sound system, including swappable op amps. So they have included an op amp upgrade kit, op amps are these little chips you can swap out. Those will help to color or change the tone of the sound for the integrated sound solution that they have right here, which, by the way, is a Creative Soundcore 3D chip with custom gold shielding and Nichicon high-end audio capacitors. You also get a gaming headphone amplifier and audio noise guard with path lighting. So you'll see there's sort of a little line down the side of the board, and that will actually light up green when you have the board powered up and working. And then you also get dual NICs integrated, so you get a killer E2200 NIC as well as an Intel NIC, both gigabit capable, dual UEFI dual BIOS with LED indicators to tell you which one you're on. Black solid caps used throughout the board. You can get a quick look at your rear panel I/O. I'll go over that when I get the board out of the box as well. 9 total fan connectors, and then you also get some accessible quick buttons, so some surface-mounted stuff for power and reset and that sort of thing. And then you also get a dual dual cooler for your VRMs, which is right up here, that you can use for both air solutions as well as water cooling solutions. So it's got some integrated barbs as well as a liquid cooling path right there. But that's about enough for the retail box, I think. Let's go ahead and take a look at accessories. Inside the box, you get a little peekaboo window at the motherboard itself, which I'm going to skip over, which I sadistically do all the time. We're going to finish with that and take a closer look at everything. Oh my goodness, there's a ton of accessories in here. Let's see if I can go over all of them. All right, we'll start off with serial ATA cables. You get a total of 6 of these. It looks like you get 3 of them that's going to have a straight plug on one end and an angle plug, and then you get 3 more with straight plugs on both ends. They're all the little claspy kind that will hold them in place, and they're all going to be SATA revision 1, 2, or 3 compatible, so don't worry if you are plugging in a high-end SSD or something along those lines. You will have the full amount of bandwidth that should be available via the SATA bus. Okay, this board does feature support for up to 4-way SLI, this being a gaming series motherboard. So they have given you a full complement of SLI bridges right here, including some rigid PCB versions, which are very useful, of course, for 3-way and 4-way. So there's your 3-way SLI bridge. It's got a matte black there, and this is going to be a very visible item in most computer builds, so I like that they've given you a nice clean look for it. Also, if you happen to go with a 2-way SLI configuration, this is a great bridge to use simply because it will provide a little bit of extra support by going between those 2 cards. I do that sometimes. Okay. You also get the 4-way SLI bridge, so if you're going all out, you got your 4-way configuration right there. Same flat black PCB and everything. They've also provided you with a Crossfire Bridge right there. This is the ribbon cable style, so you can use that for multiple positionings of the cards in the case. It's also black and has a Crossfire logo, and that also helps keep things nice and clean. And you also get a ribbon style 2-way SLI bridge right there as well. If you are looking for 3-way or 4-way Crossfire configurations, typically you'll get additional bridges along with your Crossfire compatible cards, and yeah, you can use those as well. Okay, here's your op amp upgrade kit. So you get a little op amp grabber tool right there, which I'm sure has a more specific name than that, but you use that to grab the sides of the existing chip and pull that out, and then they've given you 1 additional op amp chip to swap in. Let's see if it says which one it is. It doesn't seem to say it right there. I know it says it on the box, if you guys don't mind indulging me briefly. It is the LM4562NA, so there you go, in case you were more curious. All right. Let's take a look at your Wi-Fi solution, since this motherboard does include Wi-Fi via this add-on card right here. This is a Pci Express X1 card, so it drops right into one of your expansion bay slots right there. You get a little extra power port right there via a floppy connector. And then right here you have an integrated Wi-Fi card, which happens to be an Atheros model AR5B22. Integrated Wi-Fi card right there. It is on the MPCIe slot, so you can swap that out if you do want to upgrade that for whatever reason. Then it goes over here to your antenna connectors. And then you have a included antenna, which I'm going to go ahead and open up right there. So you got your little gold connectors. It's got a 2-pole antenna integrated into this little system right here, and then you can of course adjust that to improve your wireless signal. So there's your Wi-Fi solution. Also includes Bluetooth. That's 802.11 A, B, G, and N compatible. Also included is a Gigabyte 3.5-inch bay adapter right there that gives you a couple USB 3.0 ports. So if your case doesn't have that, or if you want to add on a couple more, simply swap that into a front panel 3.5-inch bay. It's got the 20-pin USB 3.0 internal header, so you can connect that up to the motherboard to get it up and running. Of course, screws so you can mount that in properly. What else am I missing here? Okay, we have an input-output shield, of course. It's got the squishy electromagnetic shielding on the back, which I like. All the inputs and outputs clearly labeled and a black background. You also have, oh, I'm sorry. This is for the Wi-Fi card. Okay, I might have said that this is a power connector right there. That's actually not, that's a USB connector. So USB to half USB connector right there. So route that over to your Wi-Fi card, and that will help you get your Bluetooth up and running. Speaking of the Wi-Fi card, here is your user's manual specifically for the wireless adapter. Here is your G1.Sniper 5 motherboard manual. Very important information included in here, so keep that on hand while you're doing your builds. It's got like a listing of all the parts and whatnot. Here's your driver and utility disk for your Wi-Fi card, and then here is your driver and utility disk for the motherboard proper. I would definitely recommend going to the Gigabyte website to download the latest versions of those drivers rather than using the ones on the disk, because they tend to get outdated fairly quickly. You also get a multilingual installation guidebook in case English is not your first language. And now on to the motherboard itself. As you can see, we have a black, green, and silver color scheme. You can kind of see from the different angles here with the light reflecting off of it. Flat black PCB in the back. And speaking of which, let me flip around here to give you a better look at the PCB. You can also see here that we have spring-loaded Phillips head screws, which are mounting most of the heat sinks that are on the board. So you can remove those if you choose to in the future. You might also have seen that this motherboard features 9 fan headers, so let me see if I can remember where all of those are. The first 2 are right up here. Those are your CPU main and CPU secondary fans. Those are both 4-pin PWM. A couple more 3-pin chassis fan headers right here, so that's 3 and 4. A 5th 4-pin PWM header right over here, so that's for rear or exhaust fan. And then we have 6, 7, 8, and 9, which are down along the bottom edge, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, all 4 of those also 4-pin PWMs. So total of 7 4-pin connectors and 2 3-pin connectors, all included. Now let's take a close look at the detailed. I'm just going to go over all the little items on the board, and we can kind of show you what's what. We'll start down here in the lower right corner with our front panel connectors. So they're recessed right in there. You'll notice they are somewhat color-coded, so you can kind of tell what's what. And then Gigabyte has also given you a little chart down there underneath, so you can more easily tell what's what connecting your front panels. You also have the fan header right there that I already pointed out. You get a clear CMOS header right there. Just make sure you grab a jumper if you want to use that method. You've also got the button which is located further up on the board, which I'll show you, so you can use that if you don't have a jumper. Here's one of 2 USB 3.0 front panel headers. This one is actually wired up through a hub, so it's going natively to the Z87 chipset, but that's going to give you a couple ports available through there. The other one's on the side, which I will come to in just a moment. Another system fan header already mentioned. A couple USB 2.0 headers right there, so for a total of 4 front panel USB 2.0 connection points. Some more fan headers along here, system fan. Then here is your front panel audio connector down here at this end. And here you can also see some of the Nichicon caps and some of the high-end audio componentry that they've used, as well as your Soundcore 3D audio chip. This again has some electromagnetic shielding over it. And then if you can see this sort of lightly colored channel, which I'm sort of tracing with my finger, it goes up the side of the board. It might not be really that clearly visible to you right now, but it's providing some separation of the PCB from the audio componentry from the rest. That's going to help reduce interference. And then it also has LED track lighting along it, so it's going to glow green, both from the top as well as the bottom of the motherboard. Actually, I might as well flip to the back real quick. You can maybe see it running along right over there. And that's going to light up and look pretty, as well as separating your audio componentry to give you a better sound experience. As well as I should mention, we got the swappable op amp right there, so again, you can pop that out and replace it if you want to change the sound tone of the motherboard. And then from there, I wanted to talk about the PCI Express area. So that's all the green slots that you see right there, as well as the black slots. Now the black ones here are PCI Express. These are X1 slots, and those are PCI Express Gen 2. They're running off of the chipset. The 4 full-length PCI Express X16 slots right there, the green ones, this is where the main action is going on. These are wired up through a PLX bridge. It's actually a PEX, let me double check. I'm sorry, PEX 8747 PCI Express Gen 3 bridge. So what that is going to do, it's going to take the 16 PCI Express lanes that are available from your CPU, your Intel Haswell 4th generation core processor. It's going to split them up to give you additional bandwidth here for your PCI Express. So if you have a single video card, you're going to want to go with the top slot here. That'll run at X16. If you have two-way Crossfire X or SLI, you want to go with the top slot. And I recommend this one right here. That'll give you some more space in between the cards. And these are both the X16 slots right here. These two slots here are going to run at X8. So if you're going with three-way, I'd recommend these three, and then four-way, you can populate all four of those. And actually, I should mention this is an EATX motherboard. I don't think I said that right at the beginning, but it is EATX 305 millimeters by 264 millimeters. So that is providing you with some extra space on the board for all the components that Gigabyte has integrated. Moving over to the right from the PCI Express. Oh, actually, I did want to point out one thing right here. This is your dual BIOS chips. Since it's got two of them on the integrated onto the board, so it'll give you some backup in case one fails or you have a power outage during an update, something like that. These also have LEDs next to them, so you can use the switches, which are located further up, and you can switch back and forth between those, and you can reference the LED to see which one you're connected to. All right, over to the right, we have this G1 Killer logo. You got the skull from the G1 Killer series. This is the heatsink that's going to be cooling off your Z87 chipset. It's also got a heat pipe extending up here over to this heatsink, which is cooling down the PLX bridge. And this one here, the Z87 chipset, is going to be controlling quite a few things on the board, including your PCI Express Gen 2 slots over there, but it's also going to be controlling these 6 black ports for serial ATA. These are all SATA Rev 3 6 gigabits per second ports. These are all natively controlled by the chipset, so if you've been looking for an Intel board and you want to get your SSD on, well, the Z87 is the way to go, because it's going to give you really good performance out of that. It's also going to give you RAID support, so you can do RAID 1, 5, 10, and RAID 0, of course, connecting all of those. You also get 4 more add-on SATA connector points, SATA connections right there. Those are by way of a Marvell 88SE9230 chip, and those also support RAID. You can do RAID 0, RAID 1, and RAID 10 off of those 4 ports, so plenty of connectivity there. You also might notice a little serial ATA power connector right there. That is ATX 4-pin serial ATA. So just plug in a serial ATA connector there. That's not going to be necessary in all configurations, but if you are going to go with a SLI or Crossfire configuration, this provides extra power to the PCI Express slots over there. So if you're going with a multi-card solution, it's going to be best to plug that in just to make sure everything stays nice and stable. Okay, let me set back up right here. And we'll continue up the side of the board over here on the right. And above the power connector, you'll notice USB 3.0 port right there. So that's going to be your main one. That one's natively connected to the chipset. It's also red in the background, which means it's going to support stuff like charging of devices even when the system is off, which is pretty cool. Next to that, or above that I should say, you got these 2 switches. So these is going to switch between single BIOS and dual BIOS mode, the lower one here. And the upper one will actually actively switch between your 2 BIOS chips that you have. So you can use those to control that. To the right of that, you got your 24-pin main motherboard power connector. Above that, you have a debug LED, which is incredibly useful, particularly if you're having any problems getting your system up and running. That will show some postcodes on it. You can reference those to see where the hangup might be. Above that, you got your 3-pin fan connectors that I already pointed out. Above that, you have some surface-mounted buttons. What you essentially have going on here is a clear CMOS button. You also have a power switch, then you also have a reset switch, all surface-mounted, so you can use those to, especially if you're doing outside of the box build. Those are very handy. I also have some voltage read points right there. So if you have a multimeter, or if you're into doing a little bit of soldering, you can directly connect to those to get some detailed voltage readouts. And then let's talk about DDR3, because you do have plenty of memory available here. That's these long slots, the green and the black ones. These are going to support, of course, DDR3 DIMMs. 1.5 volts recommended. Can support up to 32 gigs total. So if you do 8 gig DIMMs and all those, you'll get up to 32 gigs. Intel officially supports speeds up to 1600 speed natively from your CPU to the memory. And then you can also do overclock speeds beyond that. Of course, your mileage may vary when it comes to overclocking. It's going to depend a lot on your processor that you have right here. So with your fourth gen Haswell processor, that's going to have your memory controller. It's also got your Pci Express controller integrated right there. This is the 1150 socket, so don't try to plug in an Ivy Bridge or 3rd gen processor. You need a 4th gen Haswell, but that of course is going to support your i3, i5s, and i7s and all that good stuff. You also have plenty of power delivery componentry located around here, so that's going to provide power to the CPU, especially if you're going to be doing overclocking. And here is Gigabyte's hybrid air/water cooling design. So you'll notice this heat sink, which is also connected via heat pipe to the other heat sinks on the board. You also have these little guys, which are barbed water cooling attachments. So you can, if you have a water cooling loop, you can integrate it to that. That's got a channel. It's going to run through this heat sink. It's going to help keep your power delivery componentry nice and cool. So again, particularly for overclocking, that's very helpful. But if you don't have water cooling, don't worry, just leave that be, and you still got the fan right there that's going to provide some active air cooling over that. And then also, I should say, don't forget to plug in your supplemental 8-pin CPU power connector, which is up there on the top left. Continuing on to the inputs and outputs, which are located right here. You'll notice you got plenty of USB 3 connectivity over on the side. You also have a PS2 port right there. That's a combo port, so you can use it for a mouse or a keyboard. A couple more USB 2.0 ports right there. A coax audio connector right there. You also have video outs, of course, because Intel's 4th generation processors continue to have integrated GPUs. So for video outs, you got 3 of them right there. They're all digital. A couple HDMI outs, so those are HDMI 1.4a compatible, which means it can do resolutions of up to 4096 by 2160. You've also got DisplayPort located right there, and that one will do resolution of up to 3840 by 2160. Also USB 3.0, 6 more ports available right there. You got your 2 integrated NICs, your Qualcomm Atheros Killer NIC, which is the Atheros Killer E2201 chip, and then next to that you also got your Intel Gigabit Ethernet for maximum compatibility. And then finally over here on the right side you got your analog connection points for your Soundcore 3D audio, all of your outputs as well as your mic input, as well as an optical Toslink out. And that is going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Once again, we've been taking a closer look at the Gigabyte G1.Sniper 5 featuring the 1150 socket and the Z87 chipset for Intel's 4th generation core processors. In closing, I did want to point out a couple more details about the water cooling elements right here. The barbs here are 3/8 inch, so bear that in mind, inner diameter for the tubing you might want to use. And unfortunately, the barbs are not removable, so they're not threaded. It's a single unit that goes through here. So just to bear in mind in case you guys are interested in using the water cooling features of this board. But that's all for this video. I'm Paul with Newegg TV. If you enjoyed, you should hit the like button and subscribe and share with your friends and all that good stuff. And we'll see you all next time on Newegg TV.